Hello and welcome to Murder Munchies. This is Scarlett O'Malley. I am the host here, and today I do have two special guests that I'm so excited to have with me. We have Consuela and Tour Blanche with SL Unscripted. And thank you guys for being with me today. I really am excited about this.
We're very excited.
We've been kind of nerding out about stuff a lot lately, so we just this went along with the MadPea auction that happened a couple weeks ago, and these two can won my panel, and yeah, we've become
I fought for your
friends.
panel, Scarlett. I fought. I
was cramping it so hard.
I would visit every day, and I saw it, and I want to say yours was probably the first one. I'm like, wait, there's a Murder and Munchies podcast in SL. Where has this been for 17 years of SL? And so I would just I think somebody had already bid on it. I want to say it was Panda, because I felt like Panda was bidding on all the panels.
Yeah, she was.
And I would bid, and then I don't know, maybe like a minute later, outbid. And I'm like, oh, Panda. I was like, Panda's here, isn't she? So I'm opening up Radar, looking for her. I got to see who my competition is. And I must have spent, I don't know, maybe half hour going back and forth with her until it was like 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. I was like, okay, you know what? I know how this is going to go. So I'm just going to wait to the end, which I did. And I had all my Lindens, and I was there at the end and trying to fight for multiple panels at this point. But yours was one that I had to have.
Awesome. That makes me feel really excited, because Murder Munchies has been around for, it'll be 2 years in September I've been doing it.
Okay.
And I absolutely love doing it. And I've just never had anybody be guests on my show. So this is all new. But we're going to have a great show. This is going to be exciting and fun. And a lot of people who might not know about Murder Munchies are going to learn about Murder Munchies. So, hey, it's a win-win.
I'm excited for that, because I've listened to a few of your episodes, and I think more people need to know. There's a lot of true crime folks, crime lovers out there. And my mother's in the audience. She's one of them. Mama Lala. Yay. She's my first life mom. So she's for real.
Awesome. Well, I suppose we should get going on the show, because I'm going to tell you this case, it's going to take a while, and it's going to be detrimental to your brain a little bit. So, yeah. Oh, before we get started, though, happy International Women's Day.
Yes.
Yay.
Happy International Women's Day to all the ladies out there.
Cheers.
Yes. Celebrate all women.
Yes. Wonderful. So, today, in the audience, I always have a snack table here. We always have to have our emotional support water, because let's just face it, sometimes we need that emotional support and need a bottle to hold on to. Just make sure it's a healthy thing. And then we have a charcuterie board, and we'll get to that. And of course, you can't talk Randy Kraft without thinking about Kraft cheese. So I put out ham and cheese sliders, because I could not find what actually our munchie of the day is, which is crispy baked mac and cheese bites.
If you're able to give Tour res rights, I'm sure he's got some mac and cheese he could res out.
Oh, I can. 1 second here. Actually, I can't.
That's fine.
Oh, yeah.
It's fine.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
It's okay. All right. So, anywho, our mac and cheese bites. Now, this is the recipe that I actually make with them. I use leftover macaroni and cheese, because let's face it, I just have to face it. I make the giant box of mac and cheese, Kraft mac and cheese, and my kid doesn't eat it all. So I always have leftover stuff. So I take cold mac and cheese, stuff that's been refrigerated, add some all-purpose flour, breadcrumbs, eggs, you add like an egg wash to it. So basically it's taking, sorry, my brain just malfunctioned for a moment. So you'll have a lined baking sheet. You add your panko breadcrumbs in a flat layer and toast them for about 6 minutes or so at 400. stirring them halfway until they're golden brown. And then just doing that will make it more crispy. I've done it without, and it's okay. Now, then you take your cold mac and cheese with like a cookie scoop or like an ice cream scoop, roll it into balls with your hands, and then roll them in that panko or make them into balls. I can't talk today. And you put them in muffin tins because it's easier to keep the shape. So you put it in muffin tins and freeze them, and then you do the breading. So you do an egg wash, so you dredge everything, so flour, egg, panko, and all that. And then you bake them in the oven at 400 for 25 minutes. And they come out really super crispy, especially if you toast the panko. That recipe is from mindovermunch.com. That's a website I use a lot because they got some good recipes on there. And I believe I gave that link to you, Consuela.
I will pull that up.
I think.
I'm checking.
While we're
you did, yeah.
plugging places to get recipes, you might not know about this one and might be interested in it.
Oh.
So one of the places I like to go for recipes is budgetbites.com. Bites spelled with a Y, and it's focused on recipes that are absolutely delicious, but it's focused specifically on being able to make servings that cost very little. So that's definitely
good.
That's one I definitely recommend. And
awesome.
You can search by different categories and stuff. So
did you drop that link for me too, so I can pull that up?
I dropped it in the local. I'll post it.
Okay, yeah, post it to me, and I can bring that up. So I got my internet window.
Definitely linking this or bookmarking the Mind Over Munch.
Yeah, for sure. Those mac and cheese bites look delicious.
Don't they?
Oh my goodness!
Like they're just like, oh my god, they're so good too. It's just, and I mean, and the thing is like, I have a friend that has used barbecue rub seasoning in them too.
Oh,
like mix it with the panko to give it a different flavor. Some people have done like bacon mac and cheese bites like that. Just changing it up, even just taking, I don't know, like even like the Velveeta mac and cheese would be really good and like really like cheesy.
It would.
I think it would be fun to put a little bit of spinach in with the balls as well.
Oh, that would be good too. I agree. We could talk cheese all day. We're going to start sounding like NPR pretty soon.
You know what? I'm old, so I start thinking about Saturday Night Live and the whole like sweaty balls.
The sweaty balls.
Like, yes, I love a sweaty ball.
I know. That's what sticks
if you guys could see me, I'm doing like the lean in and the little head tilts as well.
Great.
We just need Alec Baldwin to slide in,
Right. Or Betty White, when Betty White was on with her muffins. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna have to look up the compilation of all of those. But we have to go through our dark period of this show.
We're leaving behind the sweaty balls. Betty White. We're done with Betty White.
We've touched on some of the munchies.
Now it's the murder.
Touch on the other half.
Murder.
Yeah, so make sure you have something to drink. And something to munch on, because let's be fair. I mean, emotional eating is kind of like how a lot of people roll.
Tour supports it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, we're going to start talking about Randy Kraft. Okay, sorry. My real life is leaving the building. Yay. So anyway, Randall Stephen Kraft was born in Long Beach, California on March 19th, 1945. Oh my gosh, his birthday's coming up. Oof. He is the fourth and only son to his parents, Opal and Harold. Now, Randy's father moved to California from Wyoming weeks after the United States actually entered into World War II. So he found a job working for Douglas Aircraft, and then his children, his wife and his 3 daughters, then moved there. So Randy was the only one born in California. And of course, he's the only boy. So he was very spoiled because, I mean, the baby and a boy, this is, the 40s. Everybody wanted a boy to carry on the family legacy or whatever. So the Kraft family lived a modest lifestyle. And see, this is one thing that is very interesting to me about Randy Kraft. Most of the serial killers that I've covered in the past usually have like a rocky childhood. So with Randy, he led a pretty normal life. His parents weren't abusive. They didn't split up. Nothing really crazy. It's just kind of like he's an enigma, essentially. Well, so the family had, a decent house, lived very modestly. His mom took on several jobs to supplement his father's assembly line salary. Now, she worked as a seamstress, and then she also worked as a cook at one of the local schools. Now, Opal always had time for her children. She always made time to make sure that they were well taken care of. And Randy's father was kind of busy with his job, so it was very rare that he would attend like social gatherings with them. And to be honest, the descriptions of his father come across that he, I guess, needed his own time. Everybody's different. We never know. But Randy, of course, was doted on by his 3 sisters and his mother. And he was known to be accident prone. When he was about 3 years old, they moved from from Long Beach to Midway City in Orange County in 1948. So he's 3 years old. Their home was small. It was a wood frame, and it was a woman's Army Corps dormitory that his father renovated into a 3-bedroom house. So the family became active in the Westminster First Presbyterian Church. Boy, that's a mouthful today. And his mother eventually rose to be chairwoman of the Deacons Committee. So she worked her way up within the church and like helping people out and such.
Gotcha. So not just like attending, but like really active in it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Which is, I mean, that's great. If you find something that's your calling, go for it, Now, in Midway City, Randy then attended Midway City Elementary School. His mom was part of the PTA. So, I mean, like, like I said, this is kind of a different kind of story that we're used to. And so, yeah, I mean, everybody said that he was noted as being very intelligent. And he actually attended accelerated classes at the junior high school while still in middle school or while still in elementary. So, I mean, he was doing something for himself. Now, when he eventually became a teen, he became very interested in politics. And so he became a very, very conservative and identified as a Republican and aspired to become a U.S. Senator. Now, before he enrolled in the Westminster High School, both he and 2 close friends founded the Westminster World Affairs Club. And at the high school, Randy was again regarded as being very pleasant, very smart. He always had straight A's. And occasionally he dated girls, although some of his classmates and teachers later stated they suspected that Randy was gay. Mm-hmm. Now, later, Um,
Actually, do you mind if I jump in
Yeah,
on something? Because
sure.
something I have done a little bit of reading ahead of this, and as far as like his political leanings, growing up and such, my understanding was not just that he was like conservative and sorry and Republican,
Hmm.
but that even at the time his views were described as extremely right wing and like
Yes.
ultra conservative, like he was effectively what we would call the far right,
Yes.
which yeah, and I know it's a minor thing to poke at, but it's I think important in the context of where someone could come from and where sort of internal conflicts might arise from when you're not just a rank and file voter, but like a true
Right.
believer, you know.
Right. And I think a lot of it, because of, and this is something I forgot to put in my notes. I just remember it from other things, but is that his parents were very conservative too. So I
Yeah.
kind of feel a lot of it was, hey, look at me, look what I'm doing. I'm following your footsteps kind of thing, like dad, give me
Right.
attention kind of thing a little bit.
Yes.
And yeah.
I would definitely agree with that to some degree. And
Yeah.
I say that because that's something that, in part, from my own early life, I can
Mm-mm.
relate to, and it does
Gotcha.
mess you up.
Just hopefully not to the point of
No,
murder.
no.
I'm glad you said that, Scarlett.
So, now later on, Randy did admit that in his days at high school, he did believe that he was homosexual.
Hmm.
But of course, he was keeping that quiet because obviously he didn't want his family, who are very, very devout Christians and obviously very conservative, don't know how they're going to react to it, especially when he's still in high school.
Right.
So on June 13th of 1963, he graduated 10th in his class of 390 students. That's pretty dang good. And that fall, he enrolled at Claremont Men's College in Claremont, California. And he pursued his Bachelor of Arts degree in economics.
I didn't realize there was a Claremont Men's College. I mean, there's still Claremont colleges, but back then, I guess
Yeah,
it was segregated. Men, women.
it probably, I mean,
Okay.
1963, probably.
Hmm.
It's amazing to see how many things were split up so much.
Yeah.
And then like in the late 60s, early 70s, like who was it that I covered before? I can't remember who it was. But the same thing happened with them where they were in a boys' high school and then it merged with the girls' school and it was like a whole new world to them.
Yeah, like I just looked it up right now, Claremont Men's College, and it's actually Claremont
Yeah.
McKenna nowadays. And
Oh,
that still
really?
exists, yes. Not very far from me in First Life.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, now we know. And of course, once he like got into Claremont, he enrolled in the Reserves Officers Training Corps. Another thing that I kind of think was an appeal to dad, because his
Like
dad had been in World War II, had worked for building stuff for World War II, and wanted to be kind of military-ish. So he regularly attended demonstrations in support of the Vietnam War.
which is
Which
wild.
it's on track, though, a little
Yeah,
bit.
it is.
And in 1964, he was in campaign rallies for the Republican presidential nominee, which was Barry Goldwater.
Who
Now
himself is an absolute piece of shit. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I know, right? It's just like you look back and you're like, oh dear.
Yeah.
Now, of course, he declared later that these actions were merely a simulation because of his parents' political views and never his own. which, duh. And he described his second year at Claremont as being when he abandoned the last gasp of his, and that's his quote, of his conservative ideology. So that same year, Randy entered his first admitted homosexual relationship. Now, and of course, the big thing is people at school knew he was, but his parents did not. He really kept that a secret for a long time. Now, he began working as a bartender at a local cocktail lounge that catered to gay clientele. So he was, he was with people and he would meet people that he might be interested in dating or hooking up with or whatever, right in that vicinity, essentially. And he also traveled regularly to Laguna Beach and Huntington Beach to have casual sex with hustlers. And, of course, he took a lot of male quote-unquote friends to meet his family during all this time at Claremont. And, of course, Randy's parents and his sisters were oblivious because they just thought, oh, he's bringing home friends from school. That's so nice. They're here to meet people. How exciting.
Now I want to know if he did anything with those friends in his parents' house.
Oh,
probably.
I would assume so.
I would assume so as well. Because, I mean, why? You never know. You never know. So in 1966, Randy was arrested and charged with lewd conduct after propositioning an undercover police officer in Huntington Beach. Yeah. Oops, the daisy.
Gig is up.
But because he had no criminal record, no charges were filed.
Oh my goodness.
So he was let go. Now, the following year, he developed a radical shift, obviously, in the political beliefs, and became a supporter of liberal views and eventually registered as a Democrat in 1967. Which, wow. Oh, thanks, Yaz. Oh, hi, Yaz.
Oh, I got a tip.
Yay. My girls are here. Yay. I didn't see you come in. Sorry.
I wanted I'll just kind of zoom in on that, lewd conduct charge, because it wasn't per se that he was propositioning a prostitute. Like, that was de facto illegal to engage in homosexuality at the time.
Right.
I believe.
Well, 1966, I believe so.
I'm pretty sure. I know that kind of that started to change from state to state throughout the 60s, but I think at that time, it was still, that was just not allowed, which is insane. So
it is. It's, completely crazy. I agree with you. Completely. Now, so then Randy became a Democratic Party organizer and campaigned tirelessly for the election of Robert F. Kennedy, obviously before he was assassinated, and received a personal letter from Kennedy thanking him for his credits. And my dog decided to make an appearance, so sorry about that.
I'm used to that.
Yeah, we frequently have Consuela's dogs visiting the show.
They're shut out right now, so.
Now, so by his senior year, he had really dropped the ball. He went from being like a big time, like straight A student, knew what he was doing, loved his stuff, was a happy guy, just a good, student overall. But his senior year, he let everything go. He was drinking, he was taking drugs, he was regularly attending all-night gambling and poker sessions with other students. And his lack of commitment to his studies really resulted in him failing to graduate from Claremont. And so he was forced to repeat his economics class, which positioned his postponed. I love my handwriting. I will say that. His graduation by 8 months. So in 1968, in February of 1968, he graduated from Claremont with a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics. But he's not done yet. He's not done. No, then he decided to join the United States Air Force. And he was sent to basic training in Texas before being stationed at Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California, where he actually supervised the painting of test planes. Which I was like, interesting. I never thought there would be a job for that, but I guess there is.
Yeah.
And so during his service in the Air Force, Randy rose to the rank of Airman First Class and a supervisor manager. So there he is, like, overperforming, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? But the same year that he became Airman First Class, he came out to his family. So he wrote a letter to a friend, and he just, So, I mean, this is 1968. So, I mean, that was a big move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He actually told a friend, he described his father of having gone into a state of rage, whereas he described his mother as being more understanding and supporting, but disapproving at the same time. Like, I'm still going to love you, but I don't like your lifestyle kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or I'll try and pray you're gay away sort of thing.
Yes.
I hear a lot of from those sort of families.
Oh, yeah. A lot.
Yeah.
You hear it a lot. So he basically, after this all happened, eventually his whole family accepted his sexuality, and he actually remained in close contact with his parents and siblings. Although his siblings, he said that he started to distance himself after he disclosed his sexuality. Like, they were still close, but like he wouldn't be like, "Oh yeah, let's get together next week." No, he was too busy cruising.
Yeah.
Because we'll find out more about this. This is great. So it's getting worse, kids. It's getting worse. So in March.
Well, actually, I want to pause again just to kind of recontextualize. So just in the last few years, he went from trying his hand at completely 100% pivoting his political views, throwing his weight from Barry Goldwater to instead RFK, and then seeing this new person that he was championing and that he was very passionate about get assassinated.
Yeah.
Then he lost his real closeness with his family. Yes, he still contacted them, but that dynamic was changed. That's a lot of like social isolation all at once, because undoubtedly in changing like his political views, he probably lost quite a few friends there because he was very involved in conservative circles and stuff. So that's a lot of isolation to pack on all at once in your 21 at this point, thereabouts.
Yeah, I mean, he had just graduated college.
Right. Okay. So early 20s.
Yeah, so early 20s, like 21, 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a lot to process. A lot. And then, like you said, and then coming out to his family and feeling, almost ostracized from them a little bit because of your lifestyle. And
I know that with my own parents, I go through the motions of maintaining a relationship with them, but ideologically we are extremely different, and our relationship really kind of fractured a bit when I came out as an atheist.
Oh, gotcha.
And they're Southern Baptist. And
then I totally get you.
Yeah.
I love that reaction, Scarlett.
Yeah. So it does. You do get ostracized, even if they kind of are still playing nice, you can tell
Mhm.
that they're not really engaging with you. So yeah,
Yeah, that's very sad. It's
yeah,
very sad when it's like that. Um, yeah, we deal with that with my real life as well. So my real
mm,
life, his family is like that too,
I'm
and
sorry.
yeah, it's a hard thing to swallow and navigate, but
It
you
is.
know, he's learned how to deal with it,
Yeah,
and he takes them in small doses.
yeah.
So,
That's kind of all you can do.
right. Right. And it's a good thing they're out west. We're in Midwest, so it's kind of like we don't have to see each other or anything like that. It's
Gotcha.
fine.
Yeah.
But then um things started to get a little weird. Because of course, Randy decided in July of 1969, he announced his sexual orientation to his supervisors, and that was not allowed in
Oh,
the
that's even worse, I
Yeah.
think. There
right.
Yes.
goes your livelihood.
So, he was then granted a general discharge of at only 13 months of service. Of course, his dismissal was
Yeah.
listed as being a medical condition.
Yeah.
I love it.
So that's another
um,
social circle cut off.
right.
Mm.
And of course, he sought legal advice from an attorney to challenge the grounds. Um, but the Air Force, however, refused to change the status of his discharge. So after he was discharged, Randy moved back into his parents' house and obtained work as working as a bartender
Mm.
because, that's what he was doing before. So, but like I said, it's going to get worse. So now this is the first known situation. Is that in March of 1970, Randy encountered a 13-year-old Westminster youth whose name
Mm.
was Joseph Francher at Huntington Beach. Now, this kid explained to Randy that he had run away from home that day. And Randy invited him to his apartment, promised that Joseph could live with him and offering him sex with a woman that he claimed to know. This kid agreed and accompanied Randy to his Belmont Shore apartment, where he was then drugged, beaten, and repeatedly assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
And hours later, Joseph escaped from the apartment after Randy left to go to work. So it just happened to be that he went out and was like sitting out on the sidewalk, and a passerby noticed it and said, he was drugged and very disheveled. So they called an ambulance, and once getting to the hospital, his Joseph's stomach had to be pumped to get the drugs and everything out of his system.
Jeez.
Yeah. Now, at the hospital, Joseph informed the police that Randy had given him drugs and had beaten him. He did not disclose to either his parents or the police that he had been sexually assaulted, because in that time it was shame.
Yeah.
And he was worried that no one would believe him, as many victims believe that no
Yeah.
one will
That's
believe them.
still a problem today.
Yeah. It's really sad, it is too.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Now, of course, Joseph remembered where this apartment was, so he told the cops. They went and did a search of Randy's apartment, with the cooperation of his roommate. He had a roommate. Roommate didn't know anything, but later on, Joseph revealed and confessed to police that he had taken the pills offered to him voluntarily. And it turned out the officers searched without a warrant.
Mm.
So no charges were filed.
Wow. Damn.
Do you, and just think about it. If that, and I'm not trying to victim blame or anything, but if this kid had basically said, this guy did this to me, and they had a warrant and went there, they could have had this guy locked up. And
Before
some of
he
these
did.
murders wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, damn. Oof.
And what's really sad is there's a lot of cases like that.
Yeah.
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. But anyway, in 1971, Randy, running away from his problems again, because that's what he does, found new employment working as a forklift driver. And he enrolled in Long Beach State University and majored in education to further his career.
Oh,
Because
fantastic.
Right. That's the kind of people you want in
You
the
absolutely
schools,
don't. I will verify that.
Oh, I'll have to tell you a story later. um, so then Randy became acquainted with a man named Jeff Graves, who was another teaching student who happened to be from Minnesota. Yay! And he was actually 4 years younger than Randy. And they started to have a relationship. Yay. Right? Maybe that's a good thing, right? No.
I suspect it isn't a good thing, Scarlett. I have a feeling.
Yeah. So this is in 1971. So remember that date.
Okay.
Okay. So he starts dating this Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff from Minnesota. Okay.
Minnesota.
Now, yes, Minnesota. Now, October 5th of 1971, police find the new body of a 30-year-old Long Beach resident named Wayne Duquette. And he was dropped off discarded close to Ortega Highway. Now, this guy had been a bartender at a gay bar named The Stable, which was in Sunset Beach. And he had last been seen alive on September 20th. So, I mean, that's a long time to be missing. And nobody had reported him missing either. Now, of course, because the body had been out in the elements for a period of time, it had destroyed any kind of remnants of foul play on the body.
Yeah.
So his cause of death was listed as acute alcohol poisoning because he did have a high blood alcohol level. But this was the first entry found in a journal later on, referred to as his scorecard, and he was listed as being stable.
Interesting.
That's one thing we're going to learn about Randy. Randy had a scorecard, and he literally ranked his victims and gave them nicknames. And yeah, so yeah.
So I'm
so
kind
great.
of getting a picture of someone who largely blames his own homosexuality for a lot of his own personal loss and is trying to navigate that through violence effectively.
Very well could be.
At people he's attracted to. Not actually like in any position to make a diagnosis, but that's the picture that I get.
Yeah, it's very much, I think a lot of his stuff is that, I think it is that he finds them attractive. And,
yes, and he hates that about himself.
Right. But
because
yet he's carrying on a relationship.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
So it's like very contradictory.
Yes.
Oh, gotta love life, right? Also during this time. So I will say this. This is something that I've been reading about, is that so Jeff from Minnesota was very free and wanted to experiment. Like, he was trying to get Randy to go to like parties with him and have threesomes and doing all the fun things you can do in your early 20s and going wild, right? And Randy kind of didn't like it. He told Jeff he wasn't into that. So, okay, no big deal. He tells Jeff, no, we're not going to do that. Okay. So Jeff is like, okay, whatever. Now, we get basically these are murders that happened that were not actually connected to Randy until later on. But it helps us in the timeline, if you will. So about 15 months after he murdered his first victim, he killed a 20-year-old Marine named Edward Moore.
Mhm.
Now, he was last seen leaving the barracks of Camp Pendleton on December 24th of 1972. His body was found by the 405 freeway in Seal Beach on December 26th. Now, on his body, there were abrasions, like he had been pushed by a moving vehicle of somewhat. So an autopsy revealed that he had been bound at the wrists and ankles, beaten with a blunt instrument about the face, before being garroted. Now, a lot of people don't. The garrote is such a weird thing.
I have
to
never
me.
heard that term.
It is.
It's like a bit of wire that you would use to choke someone out or cut into their arteries and veins a bit,
Yeah.
about their neck usually.
It was used as a form of capital punishment for a very long time.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is also, just tidbit, that is also how John Benet Ramsey was killed.
Yeah. It's one of the more
It's horrific.
effective weapons at strangulation.
Yeah, that's not good. Not good. His body also showed numerous bite marks, and a sock had been forced into his rectum.
Mm-hmm.
Fun stuff, kids. Fun stuff. Then 6 weeks after the murder, on February 6th, the body of an unidentified male, estimated being between 17 and 25, was found near Terminal Island Freeway in Wilmington. This victim had also been strangled with a ligature, but also had a sock in. Yeah. So,
wow. Okay.
I don't know why he likes the socks. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe they were a matching pair. We don't know.
Well, it's not like
Got
there
rid of
weren't
one.
condoms back then.
Right. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, so why use a sock? What's up with that?
Who knows? Who knows?
Oh.
It would be great, it would be great to dive into some of these like psyches to really find out stuff like that. But then in the same time, do you really want to know?
No, I don't. It's just why?
Well,
it's like a I don't know, morbid curiosity.
the trouble is the trouble for me is like, yes, I do want to know, but I don't want to know at this point in their life, because the point for intervention would
Is
have
long
been
past.
Yeah, would have been earlier on. And this is kind of the trouble with how kind of things get approached is, like the way to stop this. Yes, obviously, if we had a better response when the 13-year-old had made the report, that would have helped. But even earlier than that, like having communities that are more supportive in general, having a society that is more supportive in general, having childhoods where children engage with more adults around them than just their parents. That's something called alloparenting. All of these things kind of are part of helping to make sure that people grow up more stable and more supported, where they don't spin out and fall into like this kind of completely broken mindset.
And I have a question. I've never heard of alloparenting, and I know this is a tangent to the tangent, but it's like, to me, isn't school a form of that?
Kind of. Alloparenting is more. It's typically more localized, though. So it was pretty common for a lot of different societies where like your kids, yes, they would typically bed down with their parents, but throughout the day, this is before we had like a formalized school system per se, but they would engage with and learn from a lot of the adults that were around them, neighbors, and people that would come visit and stuff. And one of the advantages of that close proximity and those kinds of relationships, while it did not absolutely, like, I don't want to say that it was some silver bullet that addressed abuse, but it also did allow children who were in households that maybe were abusive or where their parents were fighting or something, they could go to a neighbor and just be like, hey, things are crazy at home. Can I stay here?
Okay.
They could talk to other people. They had other places they could go to seek support in times of high stress. And it also has a side effect on parents where they don't feel like they are the only one shouldering the burden of their child. They can more readily rely on neighbors to look after their kids, or that sort of thing. Or if they have to travel, they have more options. So yeah, it's a practice that's been lost, unfortunately, and I don't know quite how to get it back.
Well,
sorry for the tangent.
Sorry, Scarlett.
no.
He just said something I was very curious about. So
I think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
I was kind of absorbing.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing the tangent, Scarlett. Carry on.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. So 2 months later, because now they're getting more frequent, of course. On April 14th, the body of a 17-year-old named Kevin Bailey was found beside a road in Huntington Beach. He had been sodomized and emasculated prior to his murder, if you know what I mean. And by July 28th, 2 more victims had been murdered. An unidentified young person whose dismembered body was found in Wilmington on April 22nd, and a 20-year-old named Ronnie Weeb, who was strangled and discarded by an on-ramp of the 405 on July 30th.
So it sounded like for a minute there it was getting worse with a dismemberment and an unidentified person, but then it backed up just to like some of the MO of the previous. So it makes me curious about that dismemberment. Like, how did that go? Was there more rage there or something?
Right. How did it escalate? Why did it escalate?
Yeah.
What happened to do that?
Right.
And we'll get to it. Because,
So there is something more you'll be sharing about that.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I'll be patient.
So Randy killed at least one more person in 1973. That was a 23-year-old bisexual art student named Vincent Mestas, and his body was found in the San Bernardino Mountains on December 29th. Now, once again, with several of his victims, one of the victims' socks were forced into,
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a sock thing. He took their socks and did it. So it wasn't his own. Interesting. But his hands had been severed from his body and had never been found. So I'm sure an animal came and took him, probably. But so November of 1974, 5 more victims were found beside or close to major roadways in Southern California. Now, 3 had been linked to the same killer. 2 of those victims, 20-year-old Malcolm Little and 19-year-old James Reeves, each had been found beside a freeway with foreign objects inserted into their bodies. Whereas the 3rd victim, this 18-year-old Marine named Roger Dickerson, bore evidence of bite marks like the earlier victims. So he went one way with one thing and then went back. You see what I mean? Like, it's never it's like he's trying to change up his game a little bit so people think it's a different one. You see what I mean? Like his MO is changing for some but not others kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get to 1975. So January 3rd of 1975, Randy decides it's a great idea to abduct a 17-year-old high school student named John Lares. He was seen boarding a bus in Long Beach, but his strangled body was found the following day, discarded at Sunset Beach, with, of course, another foreign object in his body. Now, drag marks were found along the beach, suggesting that 2 individuals had carried his body into the water. 2 weeks after his murder, the body of a 21-year-old named Craig, and I'm going to butcher the last name, I'm sorry. It looks like it's Janitis, or yeah, something like that. His body was found discarded in the parking lot of Golden Sails Hotel near the Pacific Coast Highway. And he had been strangled to death with a length of string like a shoelace. So once again, changing his MO. Now, in January of 1975, a total of 14 victims had been linked to the same killer, and their bodies had been found discarded across 4 separate counties. So it was never like in the same spot. It was in different counties all over the place. Now you got to think about this. This is 1975. We have not only Randy Kraft out in California, we have the Golden State Killer. But he was actually Joseph. Oh God. Anyway, I call him Golden State Killer because I always butcher it. He was actually the Visalia ransacker at this point. So he was up in Northern California, and the thing is, and I talk about this in a lot of our episodes where it's multiple crimes happening in different counties and different precincts, is that back in the 60s and 70s, they didn't talk to each other. They didn't compare notes. That's why it took so long to find Ted Bundy, is because literally he was committing all these crimes in Washington. Well, as soon as he got kind of found out in Washington, oops, he went to Colorado. And then so on and so forth. It's because they just don't talk to each other. And so it becomes kind of a mess because you're like, dude, if they would have talked to each other, they could have caught this person way earlier. But so what they discovered doing these investigations is that all the victims had been Caucasian with similar physical characteristics. On January 24th, homicide investigators from several jurisdictions around Southern California all met in Orange County to discuss what they had been doing on their cases. An FBI profile of the killer was read to investigators, describing the individual as methodical, organized, lust killer, and someone who is above average intelligence. Which, I mean, you got to admit, he does seem like very smart in some aspects, but not in others, if you will. Like, obviously, he's got a drive to succeed in some things, and But obviously, he has an indifference to the interests and welfare of society, and that was noted on his case. Now, some investigators believed that this was the work of more than one individual, especially because they were spread around so much. And also, I forgot to mention, Hillside Stranglers were in this too. And who else? 1975 California? Well, Rodney Alcala was another one that was in that area, but he wasn't killing men. He was only killing women. There are so many that could have been quote unquote helping him, or they were a team, if you will. It's kind of scary. It's more conspiracy. We don't really know, but just with some of the things that they noticed at different crime scenes, they said one or more of these victims had a military background of somewhat, And 2 of the victims had paper tissue residue in their nostrils, which was a procedure to be used in the military to prevent bodies from purging after their death.
Okay.
Purging. Like, it just, what does that mean?
So, like,
basically, like fluids.
Just expelling of fluids.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
I know. Immediately when I saw the word purge, I'm thinking the purge.
no.
And I'm like, yeah, not that way.
I mean, because I understand what purging means, but it's in this context, right? Like
in this context,
yeah.
It's for that purpose. I'm sure it's something that they teach for when you're in battle and somebody dies, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I who knows? I'm not I'll have to ask one of my military friends if they know anything about that and why. But anyway, so they couldn't figure out the sock issue. Because let's be fair, we don't understand the sock issue.
I have a theory, but
okay.
It's not based on anything concrete, obviously.
I love your theories. Please share.
You go with your theory first.
Okay. So, my rough theory, well, I have 2. One is that there might be a practical, not practical, but like it might actually be somewhat related to the trying to stop, fluids and things from leaving the body, just by plugging up the other side of it. But his actual, where the sock thing in particular started, if I am looking through his history and I am looking to where his like self-loathing started, that's when he's first starting to think of himself as homosexual, but also as a time where he's, a young man, and it is not necessarily uncommon for young men to use a sock as a masturbation aid. So that's a thing. So, I see those 2 as potentially related.
I could see that.
I can see that too. And investigators actually believe that was the reason too.
Okay. Yeah.
You hit it nail on the head. I was
all
like,
right, sure, okay, well done. Yay.
Yeah. All right. So March 29th of 1975, Randy thinks it's a good idea to lure 2 kids, Keith Crotwell and Kent May, from a Long Beach parking lot into his Ford Mustang.
Wait, kids. Now, what age are we talking about?
Actually, I don't have notes about how old they are. It just says 2 youths. And I'm assuming that that would mean teenagers. So I'm guessing probably young teens.
So
teenagers.
The
Keith
first
Crotwell, 19 years old.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Because the youngest one so far was 13 or 15?
Well, the youngest one that that was the first one. He was 13.
13. Okay.
And then
that's terrible.
One of his victims was 15, and he had taken him from a bus stop or whatnot.
Right. The high schooler.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it says once he got him to his apartment, they were given beer and Valium. Or no, I'm sorry. They got into his car, his Ford Mustang, which when I was a kid, I wanted a Ford Mustang so bad.
They're great.
So I know. I'm just like, oh, why? But anyway, once in the car, they were given the beer and Valium. And Randy drove in a random pattern around Belmont Shore and Seal Bay. Basically, he says later on that he was feeling catatonic as a result of Valium and alcohol. Now, in the parking lot where the 2 had last been seen, 2 friends of these boys observed a distinct black and white Mustang pull in and stop before the driver leaned across, opens the passenger door, and pushed the unconscious but otherwise unharmed Kent May out onto the pavement. The driver then sped away from the scene, and as he did, the friends noted that Keith Crotwell was slumped in the against the driver's shoulder. So my guess is he was very, 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 very drunk and inebriated. So this is interesting because that was March 29th. May 8th, his skull was found on a jetty close to the Long Beach marina. The remainder of his body was found 6 months later. So the two friends of Keith and Kent who suspected the murderer was a patron at the Belmont Shore Gay Bar. They actually searched the neighborhood to find this Mustang. And they found the car less than a mile from their home, wrote down the license plate, and gave the information to police. And that's how they found Randy Kraft. So guess what?
Wow.
Long Beach police brought in Randy Kraft for questioning about Keith Crotwell's abduction. So he came in on May 19th. Now, initially, he denied ever having met either one of the boys, and the police obviously didn't believe him, so they brought him in for questioning again. He admitted that on or around March 29th that he encountered these two boys in the Long Beach parking lot in question and persuaded them to drink alcohol and consume Valium with him as he drove. Kind of like he's a lonely guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he claimed to have returned, Kent May back to the parking lot and then drove Keith to a side road close to the El Toro off-ramp where his car became embedded upon an embankment. He claimed that he walked to a gas station by himself to call a tow truck while Keith remained in the car. Now, when he returned to his vehicle, he says that Kent had disappeared. Or I can't talk. Keith had disappeared. Now, Randy had a roommate, still had a roommate. I would have been freaked out if he's that kind of creepy, you know? But maybe he had a whole different persona. So his roommate confirmed that Randy had phoned him on the date of the disappearance, claiming that his vehicle was stuck on an embankment. And detectives remain unconvinced, though, by Randy's version. Because the following week, two detectives attempted to file homicide charges against Randy. However, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office declined, citing that the coroner's conclusion of his autopsy of the remains said that he died of accidental drowning. I don't know how they determined that. It doesn't say how, but it was only, at the time, his only remains that were found were his skull.
Mm-hmm.
So, who knows? But Randy did not commit any more crimes until December 31st of that year. He then abducted a 22-year-old Mark Hall in San Juan Capistrano, and in this instance, later described as to prosecutors as the worst, he was driven to a remote canyon where he was bound to a tree. And the autopsy reported the cause of death was asphyxiation. I've only said that word millions of times before. Caused by leaves and earth found lodged in his trachea. Yeah. So the autopsy also revealed that he had been, obviously, he had been sodomized, and his bits had been cut off. Yeah. And they found his severed things in inside him,
Mm.
if you will.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was
Bad one.
this
Really
was
bad.
yeah. He had almost a year where he hadn't done anything and
Yeah.
just built it all up for this guy. That's awful.
Mm.
And the autopsy revealed also that his chest, scrotum, nose, and cheeks had been burned with an automobile cigarette lighter,
Oof.
Oh, geez.
which was also used to destroy his eyes.
Ugh.
Wow.
Yeah. This is a special kind of messed up. Just, yeah. And, yeah, I really feel for this dude because who knows what was done to him while he was still alive, you know?
Yeah, I can only hope that he was strangled out first.
Yes. Yeah. The autopsy reported also numerous incisions on his leg, which had been inflicted with a broken bottle. Oh. And forensics people said he was alive throughout most of this.
Oh gosh.
Oh,
I
that's-
did not read my paragraph far enough down.
Oh.
Well,
Whew.
Hmm.
Feel really bad for him.
yeah.
God. Well, anyway. So 1976 rolls around. Randy decides that he is done with Jeff Graves, our boy from Minnesota. Says, I'm done with you. We fought too much. Can you tell that they fought a lot? Because if you notice the pattern, it's literally when he fights with Jeff that he does the worst.
Gotcha.
So he ended his relationship with Jeff from Minnesota. So bye, Jeff from Minnesota. You were fun. But shortly after, he met a 19-year-old apprentice baker named Jeff. He has a thing for Jeffs. Seelig, and they moved into a place in Laguna Hills. Now, neither of them wanted monogamy, which I find really interesting because Randy really pushed for that with Jeff Graves. He didn't want to be in the orgy thing or the threesome thing. He didn't want that. He wanted monogamy, but now all of a sudden he's changed his tune. Probably because it's a 19-year-old. Went for, a younger model. More fun. I don't know. But they still were they were just doing the open relationship thing, which, yeah.
Gotcha. So it's not necessarily like threesomes and parties. It's just an open relationship.
Yeah,
which is a different dynamic, in fairness.
Totally. Later on, New Jeff, we'll call him New Jeff, okay? He later told investigators that he and Randy regularly picked up and propositioned hitchhikers who would accompany them to their apartment for playtime. However, New Jeff said that Randy had never been violent towards him, had never seen him display anything violent. So obviously he was kind of living this double life thing. And so, after obviously looking back on this case, his relationship with New Jeff is believed to be the reason that he had a big time lull in murders.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he didn't kill again until December of 1976, so almost a year that they had been dating. And that victim was a 19-year-old Paul Fuchs who had never been found, but his name is clearly listed upon on Randy's scorecard. And he was last seen outside a Long Beach gay bar, and they named him Ripples. And that was a bar that Randy had been to several times. It's, like I said, it's getting worse, kids. It's getting worse.
Yeah.
So the following, obviously, December of 1976, Randy is not known to kill again for 16 more months. So he went without doing anything for almost a year and a half. So on January 3rd of 1978, homicide investigators discussed where they were on this manhunt for this killer, right? Now, all the investigators knew is that there is more than one murderer at large. Now, originally, police arrested Patrick Kearney, who is the freeway killer. We'll talk about him another time, because he was also going around at the same time Randy was. There's so many serial killers that were happening out at the same time in Southern California. It's ridiculous. It's like, what are you doing? Now, he confessed to the murders of 28 boys and young men, many of them that he had dismembered and discarded in trash bags along freeways in Southern California. Gives a whole new meaning to freeway cleanup. Gross. Now, Randy had dismembered some of his victims, but he never killed his victims by shooting them in the temple as Patrick Kearney did. Also, Kearney had never tortured any of his victims. His normal MO differed significantly from what Randy Kraft was doing. And so investigators were certain that there was another victim that was floating around somewhere because they had already arrested Patrick Kearney. Now, April 16th of 1978, Randy decides it's okay to abduct another person. Like, 18-year-old Marine named Scott Hughes. Now, he was piled with Valium before Randy slit open his area and removed one of his testicles. Yeah, fun stuff, right? He then strangled him to death with a ligature and discarded his body, missing only his shoelaces, along a freeway ramp in Anaheim. Now, 2 months later, June 11th, the body of a 23-year-old Roland Young was found near San Diego Freeway. He had also had his parts cut off before being stabbed to death. See, it's very, his crimes are like, so like, I don't want to say hot and cold, but it's kind of hot and cold. Like,
yeah. Well, if it's based on
what's happening in this relationship.
Yeah, if it's based on the relationship fights, then it could be directly proportional to how intense he feels that fight was, or how isolated he feels at any given moment.
Yeah. Ugh. And so, oh God, sorry, just 1 second. Now, it says here that Young was actually found to have abrasions. And it turns out that he had been pushed from a vehicle traveling at high speed. So most likely, he did that. He stabbed him and pushed him out of the car right after. Now, 8 days later, 8 days. So this isn't like, his little like month here, 2 months here, that thing. 8 days. The body of a 20-year-old Marine named Richard Keith was found discarded beside the road on Moulton Parkway. And he had been seen alive by his girlfriend in the city of Carson. Now, there were welts on his wrist, indicated that he had been bound before he was strangled with a ligature. Froth in his mouth indicated that he was also drowning as a result of flurazepam, which is a benzo.
Yeah.
And alcohol that he had consumed at the time he was strangled. He is believed to be referred to on the scorecard as Marine Carson because he got him in Carson and he was a Marine. Now, 3 weeks after the murder, on July 6th, he then killed a 23-year-old hitchhiker named Keith Allen Beal. He had ingested large doses of acetaminophen and alcohol before he was strangled with his shoelace, and his body was discarded by the Interstate 5 freeway. Now, it says that he was still alive when he was discovered, but he shortly died after his admission to the hospital.
Mm.
The autopsy revealed that before his strangulation, his left nipple had been seared with a car cigarette lighter.
Mm.
I'm so glad they don't really have those anymore. We're getting down to it. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. So 2 months later, on September 29th, the body of 20-year-old Richard Crosby was found discarded 200 yards north of Highway 71 in San Bernardino. He had disappeared the previous day because he was hitchhiking. Like I said, kids, never hitchhike. There are so many people who have been killed because they were hitchhiking.
Yep.
Just saying it. Bad idea.
What's
he
crazy
was actually
about that is I used to hitchhike quite
I
a bit
thought
when
you
I
were
was-
going to say that, you know? I was about to say, I have never hitchhiked, and I mean it, even though my mom's in the chat. I mean it. I've never. And of course, I had a feeling that, of course, Tour had.
Yeah, I did quite a bit when I was
Wow. You are blessed to be alive, my friend.
right.
from 16 to 19, roughly.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my mom talked about her in the 70s. She said more about when see, the thing is, she grew up in kind of a medium-sized town, and then she went to college in kind of a tiny town.
Mhm.
So she felt safe enough doing it, but she said, you know, that was early 70s in Minnesota. So,
Minnesota.
you know, Minnesota has only one serial killer
Really?
from here. Yes, one.
Seriously?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. The weepy voice killer.
I had no idea. I'll have to.
Oh, I'll have to cover that one again.
Yeah.
But
I'll have
no,
to
literally,
link me
I
the
did,
episode you cover it. I'll just give it a listen.
yeah, I did a Minnesota episode, and literally I was like, we only have one? How is that possible? How is that possible? I would think there would be, I don't know. You know, that's the same question I have, is where did he get all the drugs? Especially like some of these that are like hardcore. I can understand the Tylenol, yeah, whatever. The acetaminophen, yeah, we can get that. But like some of these other ones, I'm like, dude, where, how? But then again, back then you could just be like, oh, I'm getting this, and they'll just give you drugs. So who knows? We'll find out probably. But anywho, so this guy had been hitchhiking to a theater in Torrance. He had been suffocated, and he had also had his left nipple, not his right, just his left, burnt with a cigarette lighter. So that's his new MO, I guess. But the last known victim in 1978, don't you love it? 1978. 21-year-old truck driver named Michael Interbeton, who was also had his man parts removed, was found along an on-ramp of the I-605 in November of 1978. He obviously had had his man parts removed, but he had also been violated with a foreign object and had suffered burns similar to those inflicted by Mark Hall 2 years previously. And his death was asphyxiation. Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse, kid. Yeah. So he didn't kill again until June 16th of 1979. So he was about 6 months. He abducted. I don't know why he keeps thinking it's a great idea just to abduct people. Like, you know. But anyway, 20-year-old Marine named Donnie Crissell, whose body was thrown from a moving vehicle onto the 405. Oh, excuse me. Goodness. The cause of death was listed as acute alcohol poisoning, although rope and burn marks were on them, and that he was bound and tortured prior to his body being thrown out the car. So, people. And 2 months later, The dismembered remains of a 21-year-old English tourist named Keith Jackson was found discarded in 2 trash bags and a cardboard box behind a Union 76 gas station in Long Beach. He, of course, had the sock thing going on, too. And only his head, torso, and left leg were ever found. It says that he had been deceased for several days prior to this discovery of his body. Now, on Randy's scorecard, it says England. England. And also 76. So I don't know why he has 2 entries, but he does. Now, 2 weeks later, on September 14th, the body of a 19-year-old Gregory Jolly was found in Lake Arrowhead. He had been severed his body parts, and his head and legs had been severed after death. November 24th of 1979, 15-year-old Santa Ana teenager named Jeffrey Sire. See, he has a thing for Jeffs. I'm sorry. He's got a thing.
He does seem to. Yeah.
He has been believed to be abducted and murdered by Randy. He was last seen at a bus stop in Westminster, which is right by where Randy went to high school. He was returning from a date with his girlfriend. Poor kid. They said that this bus stop was actually right by Randy's parents' house. That was entered in his scorecard as Westminster date. And then on February 18th of 1980, a decapitated body of a 19-year-old Marine named Mark Marsh was found near the Templin Highway. He was last seen hitchhiking towards Buena Park, and his hands had been severed from his body after death, much like a previous one that happened.
Right.
But he decides to move on. It's so bad. So in the summer of 1980, Randy goes to Oregon on an extended business trip.
Oh, an out-of-state one.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. During his trip,
exciting.
he lived close to Portland. And I'm just going to say, Portland is kind of a center of weird, strange murders. Happens a lot in Oregon. I don't know why it is that. It's Oregon and upstate California. Lots of bodies in Shasta Lake. I'm just telling you right now. That's where my cousin is. That's where my cousin is, at the bottom of Shasta Lake. I can guarantee that's where his body is.
I can't speak to Shasta Lake, but if you do visit Oregon, be sure to check out Crater Lake. It's absolutely gorgeous.
And there's bodies in the bottom.
I was going to probably say there's bodies there too.
There might be. I didn't look.
I don't think you would want to.
But no, it's gorgeous.
Oh, God. Oh, dear. Oh, gosh. Sorry. I just have to.
You have to.
By the way, everybody, we laugh because it's a nervous laugh, because literally this stuff is so awful. And I will tell you, like, I literally go through and write up these things and make notes and stuff about each case that I work on. And I will tell you, some days I just have to sit and watch, like, I have a guilty pleasure of watching dance videos. So that's what I do on YouTube to kind of clear my brain. And, or I watch true crime stuff that's not murder.
Now, I have to ask, with the dance videos, are you watching like Second Life dance videos or like real First Life dance videos?
No, I love watching like the dance team competitions from all over the country.
Those are good.
Where it's like, well, those, and then like even like the dance companies, like some of those I'm just like wowed.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I mean, and then of course I love Charlotte Dobre. I love her. So I watch a lot of her stuff or listen to it. But yeah. So
I'm going to post a palate cleanser in chat since I mentioned it. Here you go.
Crater Lake. You're still hung up on Crater Lake.
I am.
All right.
You know what?
Let me put that up for YouTube too.
just for you, Tor, I will do an episode on Crater Lake crimes just for you. Just for you. Okay?
There might be some, yeah.
We'll dedicate it to you, okay?
Yeah.
Now, okay, so he's up in Oregon. And because he lived in Portland, he didn't return to California until when he didn't return to California until August. So during that time he was in Portland, he got a little frisky up there too. Fun, right? Yeah. He killed 2 more people in Portland area, both of whom were listed on his scorecard with references including the word Portland. Now, his first victim was a 17-year-old Denver student named Michael O'Fallon. He was killed on July 17th. He had been on a solo hitchhiking trip across the U.S. and Canada before his enrollment at college. Now, he had consumed both alcohol and Valium. God, it's really hard to get Valium nowadays. I think it's really interesting how easy he could get it.
Yeah.
But who knows? Like I said, who knows what kind of access he had. But anyway, he had been
age kind of sorry.
No, go ahead.
I find the age pattern kind of interesting because not only in his relationships but also his targeting of victims, it really does seem to reinforce this him trying to lash out at himself at that point in time, roughly 19 years old, when he started losing all of his social circles.
That, and also a lot of these ages are late teens, early 20s, and that was the time where he was coming to terms with his sexuality when he was in college.
Yeah. It just that seems to be very, very present in these actions. Yeah,
it's it's a lot to unpack. He's one I don't want to go into the mind of, but we will figure it out someday. I'm sure he'll talk about it someday. Maybe. Who knows? He's still alive, so
yeah. I don't think he's got a lot of time left to talk about it, though.
Probably not, but maybe he will be smart about it and sit down and have somebody record it. Yeah. Like a lot of people do right before they're kind of out the door. Who knows? Maybe will, maybe not.
If he still can retain any of it. I know prison breaks people further typically. It doesn't really give you a great sense of self-reflection.
I bet it does. Oh gosh.
Sorry, go on.
No, I just feel bad because this kid, his body was found hogtied and discarded 10 miles south of Salem. He was then listed on his scorecard as Portland, Denver, and his camera, inscribed with his mother's initials, was taken by Randy. Now, the following day, Randy is believed to have killed a man estimated to be between 35 and 45, which is totally outside of his parameters.
Yeah.
But his body was found beside a freeway in the city of Woodburn. Now, this guy was listed as Portland Elk on Randy's scorecard. He had ingested a toxic level of Valium and Tylenol before he was strangled to death. But September 3rd, 1980. So he returns to California from Oregon, and they find a 19-year-old Marine, and he likes his Marines too, named Robert Loggins, who was found discarded in a trash bag close to El Toro Marine Air Base. He had last been seen alive by 2 fellow Marines close to the Pacific Coast Highway on August 23rd. The photographs and negatives were also found in Randy's possession later on. Show him in Kraft's living room, slumped fully clothed on his sofa and apparently intoxicated, and in various nude pornographic and also in various nude pornographic poses and such. All these pictures depict him with his eyes closed, so it's unknown whether he was alive or dead when they were taken. Now, April 10th of 1981, the body of 17-year-old Mark Cluck was found beside the Interstate 5 freeway close to Goshen, Oregon. Now, he had been abducted while hiking from Kent, Washington to Bakersfield, California, the day prior to his body being discovered. 31 blunt force blows to the head destroyed the back of his skull, which obviously killed him, because how could that not? He had also been sodomized and savagely beaten, kicked, and also scoured. He's believed to have been recorded on the scorecard as Portland blood due to the extensive blood and debris found at the murder scene. Now, at the time of the murder, Randy had once again been assigned to go to Oregon by his employers. And the day his body was discovered, Randy visited a Lane County hospital to receive treatment for a bruised foot. A bruised foot. Yeah. 4 months later, 17-year-old male Christopher Williams, he was a prostitute, was found in the San Bernardino Mountains. He had ingested phenobarbital. Ooh, we've moved up. And more benzos, and was found with tissue paper lodged deep in his nostrils, causing him to choke to death.
Jeez.
Yeah. Now, in 1982, Kraft and New Jeff had become marred by frequent fights and episodes of separation. So they would run away from each other for a bit. So in an effort to kind of fix their problems, the couple began attending weekly counseling sessions.
Wow.
In June of 1982.
Now we're going to therapy?
Now we're going to therapy.
Wow. Okay.
I would love to be a fly on the wall on that. Whew. But lots of complaints in Echo Park regarded a foul odor coming from the direction of the Hollywood Freeway in July of 82. A Caltrans employee found the decaying body of a 14-year-old Pittsburgh, California kid named Raymond Davis discarded along the highway. Now, the person who buried him there tried to hide his body under like leaves and like trying to dump dirt on him and stuff. He had last been seen alive in Echo Park on June 17th, searching for his missing dog. The kid was just looking for his dog.
Oh my goodness.
Like, ugh. His wrists had been knotted behind his back. He had been strangled to death with his shoelace. And on the scorecard, he listed him as dog. It just... And then, of course, just feet from this one child, there is another one, a 16-year-old named Robert Avila, sorry. He had been missing since July 21st, and his body was also decomposed, and he was strangled to death with a stereo speaker wire. I swear. So we're getting it. We're getting there. I'm so sorry. This takes forever. Now, 2 days after his arrival in Grand Rapids, Randy encountered cousins Dennis Alt and Christopher Shohern at a seminar at the Amway Grand Plaza Hotel. He was then taken with the pair to the hotel's reception area shortly before midnight. Their bodies were discovered December 9th in an open field close to the hotel. Both of them had been piled with alcohol and Valium before everything happened. And of course, they had been strangled, and their bodies had been arranged in sexually suggestive positions. Now, the older one, Dennis Alt, 24, died of asphyxiation, and Christopher, who was 20, had been strangled to death with his own belt. A ballpoint pen had been inserted. Yes, a ballpoint pen had been inserted into Christopher's
Counting.
his unit.
Wow.
Yeah. Both victims are recorded in the scorecard as GR2. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it just happened to be a set of keys belonging to Christopher plus a military jacket were left by Randy in the hotel he had been staying at. Now, this is in Michigan.
Okay.
He went to Michigan. This was in Michigan. Now, December 8th, he went back to Portland. Within 24 hours of being in Oregon, he killed 19-year-old hitchhiker named Lance Taggs. And he was discovered alongside a rural road in Clackamas County, close to where a body that he did before was found. He had consumed alcohol and Valium, and of course was had died of suffocation. And a sock was stuffed into his trachea. So this is different thing.
Now I forget at this point in time, is he with a Jeff? Or
Yes.
has he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He's still with Jeff.
So they're fighting.
He's still with new Jeff.
Yeah, he's still with new Jeff.
So
I'm guessing
not
therapy
good?
isn't. I'm guessing therapy's not really working.
No, it doesn't seem like
be.
it. Yeah.
No.
I just wanted to double check because we hadn't heard about new Jeff in a bit.
Yeah, they're still together at this point.
Right.
So this is where we're getting good. We're in 1983 now. We're getting up there. So Randy didn't kill again until January 27th in 1983, like he needed to do it again, but whatever. 21-year-old hitchhiker named Eric Church. He was last seen alive hitchhiking from Orange County to Sacramento. His body was found discarded along the I-605. And the autopsy concluded that he had consumed high levels of alcohol and Valium and that he had been sodomized. But he had been restrained. So the marks on his wrists showed that he struggled with that. But he died as a combination of ligature strangulation and numerous blows to the side of his skull.
These are definitely getting more just violent. Like
violent and almost more randomish.
Yeah.
Like before it was very much like 17 to 22-year-old, but then we had like these real young ones, 14, 15, and then we had the 35 to 45-year-old that's a John Doe.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like it's sad anyway. It's just all sad.
Yeah.
February 12th, Randy decided to do a twofer. And he killed two men, 18-year-old Jeffrey Nelson and 20-year-old Roger Duvall. The two men were last seen outside the house of a friend shortly after midnight when their friend intended to purchase something to eat. Jeffrey Nelson's nude body was found alongside the off-ramp close to Garden Grove Freeway several hours after they were last seen. He had been, and strangled and thrown from a moving vehicle. Roger Duvall's body was found the next day, discarded along Mount Baldy in San Bernardino County. He had been bound, sodomized, and strangled with a cord. He had ingested both alcohol and propanol before his murder. And of course, the stomachs of both victims contained potato skins and grapes, which they had eaten right before. All right. So this is where Randy Kraft is an idiot. And, well, I mean, yeah. This is great. Okay. So at 1:10 a.m. on May 14th of 1983, two California Highway Patrol officers observed a Toyota Celica driving erratically on Interstate 5 in Orange County of Mission Viejo. Now, they observe this vehicle, and it does an illegal lane change. So the officers believe that the driver was under the influence, so they signaled for the vehicle to stop. The driver pulls over, and he identified himself as Randy Kraft. He exited the vehicle, discarding the contents of a beer bottle onto the pavement. Yeah.
In front of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, genius right there.
It's like, look, I can't, I'm not going to drink anymore. I'll just dump it out here in front of the officers.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. That's what you do, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the officer, Michael Sterling, talked to Randy a little bit in the front of his patrol car. He observed that his jeans were unbuttoned. Okay. I mean, if he was drunk, he probably went to the bathroom and forgot to button his pants, right? That's what this guy's thinking, is he's too drunk to remember this.
Mm-hmm.
He did have Randy perform a field sobriety test, which he very muchly failed.
Yep.
He then, of course, arrests Randy for driving while intoxicated. Okay. So he gets in the car, whatever. So it happened to be that this officer Sterling, his partner, who was a sergeant, Michael Howard, he approached the Celica and observed a young man slumped with his eyes closed in the passenger seat, which was partially covered by a blanket. Okay, so maybe it's his drunk friend, Mm-hmm. Several Moosehead beer bottles and a prescription bottle of lorazepam, I can't say it, lorazepam tablets were all on all dumped around his feet.
I really want to know who was hooking him up with the drugs. I mean, this is like...
That's what I want to know.
All the prescription bottles, so who is it?
Right. Unless it was that he had just a doctor he went to and just said, hey, I want this.
Wow.
Well,
and maybe he did.
Let's see, that time frame, doctor offices didn't necessarily share that well, so he might actually have multiple different prescriptions from different doctors.
Could be, or maybe those things were prescribed to him or Jeff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, I mean, Valium, I think about it, and, during the 80s, Valium, people popped those like it was nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it was that easy to get back then. Who knows? But maybe I'll look it up later on. We'll see. Obviously.
I just wanted to check. For context, 1970s, throughout them, Valium was the single most prescribed drug.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Scarlett, I love when your accent comes out. I've noticed it a few times. It's like, there you go. Okay.
It held that position until 1982, when it started getting bad press due to its addictive properties.
Interesting.
So maybe he stockpiled. I wonder if that's what he did.
Yeah. It would have been easy for him to get while he was active, for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So Sergeant Howard tries to wake up this guy, right? Obviously no response. So he attempted.
Nope.
Uh-oh. We don't hear you, Scarlett.
Help.
Cliffhanger. Scarlett.
No, did she crash?
I don't know. Let's find out. Hang on, bear with us.
Oh no.
Oh no, did I drop?
There, you're back. You're back.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
My internet had a little
yeah, we hear you now.
Yeah, okay.
You stopped at that Randy or the sergeant
was waking up, trying to wake up the guy.
Yeah. So when he's shaking this guy, he notices that he's got a very low temperature.
Okay.
And so he checked for a pulse. And of course he's dead.
What?
Never
Yeah.
I was hoping someone would be alive, like he dodged a bullet.
Yeah, because then when he pulled that blanket away, there was a ligature around his neck.
Oh.
Yeah. He also, once he lifted that jacket, he noted that the victim's jeans had been opened to expose his genitalia. His hands had been bound with a shoelace and his wrists.
She gone again? Oh no, his wrist what?
And his wrist.
His wrist. Oh.
Help. We're having a few technical issues here, folks.
Oh. Now it's so cliffhangy.
I know.
Oh, we'll see if she survives this hiccup.
That's a rough way of phrasing that, given the context.
Oh, my bad. Wow. Yes. That was not my intent. Sorry.
I know.
Let's hope she doesn't disconnect. How about I say it like that?
Yeah, that's much. Yeah.
Oh
God.
my.
Oh, is she back? She's back.
Yes.
Am I back? Oh my
Yes.
gosh. No, my internet is being really weird all of a sudden. It's yeah. We're going to get through this. We're almost done.
Yeah.
We're almost done.
Yeah.
We're going to get it.
His wrists.
Yeah. So his wrists had evidence of welts.
Okay.
So he was later identified as Terry Lee Gambro, who was a 25-year-old Marine stationed in El Toro Air Force Base. And of course, he had been strangled with that ligature. So of course, Randy, gets arrested and charged with driving under the influence of alcohol and was held in custody as detectives went through a search of his vehicle. Now, on the car's rear seat, investigators found a belt, the width of which matched the bruising around Terry Lee's neck. Other incriminating evidence retrieved included alcohol, tranquilizers, various prescription drugs, stimulants. The passenger seat and carpet of the vehicle were heavily bloodstained. However, Terry Lee had no open wounds or anything
I was about
that would
to
cause
say,
bleeding.
it's probably not just one person's blood in that vehicle.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So where did he park this car?
I don't know.
Like, I mean, just in general, like if it's just sitting there
out in the
absolutely soaked in blood in the interior, like he's not taking New Jeff around in that. Like that's a mood killer.
Wow.
Right. And like the thing is, I see a picture of his car.
Okay.
Like the inside of his car.
Uh-huh.
And it's like a beige interior. So it's not like black or like a dark color where the blood would like blend in.
Right.
I think I know what Mama Lala's will type at some point because we used to have a Celica and it was brown.
Oh.
And it had brown interior. So when you start describing this vehicle, I'm like, oh, yeah, I can see how we don't notice all the blood everywhere.
Okay.
Right?
Huh.
So, yeah. So the upholstery was removed, obviously, for forensics.
And I see the picture too, so I'm going to put that up for people to see.
Nice.
Go ahead, sorry. Oh, did we lose her again?
Oh, it's human blood.
Oh, there she goes. There she's back. Okay.
Oh God. I'm literally like watching Discord constantly, making sure I'm still connected.
Yeah. We got you.
Okay, cool. So anyway, now beneath the carpet, investigators actually found an envelope containing more than 50 photographs of young men in pornographic poses. Many of the subjects in the picture appeared either to be asleep or dead. Inside the trunk, investigators found a ring binder, a 3-ring binder, containing handwritten lists of 61 coded notations. Once they searched Randy's home, which I'm like, if he's living with New Jeff, how the hell is he keeping all of this a secret? Like, wouldn't Jeff get suspicious? Like,
yeah,
I don't get it. Well, anyway, once they get the warrant to search his house, they find clothes and personal possessions for several of the young men who had been murdered. Fibers taken from the rug matched those found on Scott Hughes, in addition to the couch in Randy's living room, was identified as being one in the phonographs. The one in the
Gone again.
Oh no.
Where did she?
Oh,
Oh, there
am
she
I?
is. Yeah, back.
Okay.
Hello.
Whew. Oh my God. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to reset it after we're done.
It's okay.
Okay. So anyway, a roll of film was discovered, and that contained shots of Eric Church and Roger Duvall sitting in Randy's car. And in the picture, you can clearly see a ligature mark. So those pictures were taken once he was dead.
Hmm.
Lovely. So then there's the scorecard, right? We want to know more about the scorecard. So there were 61 neatly printed terms and phrases found in the trunk of the car, believed to be each of Randy's victims. Many entries appear very innocuous, like not really clear, but each is believed to refer to a specific murder victim or a double murder. So entries for victims, for example, EDM refers to Edward Daniel Moore. Vince M refers to Vincent Mestas. So those are easy ones to decipher. But then we have like the one Marine Head BP. That is to refer to Mark Marsh. That was the Marine that was found decapitated. And he was near Buena Park. So that's how he noted some of them. A lot of them are like body dump locations, which that's not grim at all. But then Golden Sales was to the fact that Craig Janadis was found in the parking lot of Golden Sales Hotel. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So like there's a lot like that. But then you also have ones of GR2, which is those two guys in Grand Rapids. And 2-in-1 Beach refers to those two teenagers. 2-in-1 Hitch and 2-in-1 MV PL, which are, they're not linked to anything yet. This is stuff that they're still investigating.
Wow.
That's what's crazy.
Yeah.
So, and plus there's so many John Does all over the country. We don't know. Like anything could be tied back to him for all we know. And then you have the copycat killers that want to emulate other killers, you know? So investigators contended that two of the victims who murders Randy did were not listed on the scorecard. However, since all the list is in code, the possibility exists that one of the victims is included in the scorecard as an entry that investigators cannot recognize as referring to him. There's actually two of them that are like that. The possibilities indicate the scorecard lists a minimum of 65 and possibly 67 victims.
Wow.
I know.
And that's across 12 years. So
And what, 3 states? 4 states? 3.
3.
That's roughly 5 per year.
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
So May 16th of 1983, Randy Kraft was formally charged for the murder of my brain just went haywire, of Gabriel. That was the one, that was the last one, because obviously his body was right there in the car.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, duh.
I was like, please don't tell me the police messed that one up.
That was pretty easy to prove. Yeah.
Right. But by September, investigators had interviewed over 700 witnesses and had gathered more than 250 physical exhibits to pointed towards Randy's guilt. At least 215 homicides committed between 1972 and February of 1983. So he was formally charged with 15 murders in addition to 2 counts of sodomy and 1 of emasculation. Lovely, right?
Yeah.
So he was formally charged with the 15 murders of Edward Moore, Kevin Bailey, Ronnie Weeb, Kenneth Crotwell, Mark Howard, Scott Hughes, Gerard Young, Richard Keith Kingbeal, Michael Inderbyton, I believe, Donnie Crisell, Robert Loggins Jr., Eric Church, Roger James Duvall Jr., Jeffrey Nelson, and Terry Lee Gramble. Of course, trial begins September 26th of 1988. Yes, 5 years later, because they have to compile everything they can for this.
Yeah.
And the bigger string of murders, the more time it takes.
Right.
So he was tried in Orange County. At the trial, almost 160 witnesses were called to testify on behalf of the prosecution. Over 1,000 exhibits were introduced as evidence. Lots of, obviously, physical evidence like the bloodstains in the car, hair follicles they found, fiber evidence found at Randy's Long Beach house and his car, the fingerprints upon glass shards recovered from the broken bottle murder scene, the one where he stabbed him with a broken bottle. His fingerprints were on it. So all the negatives of his victims found inside his vehicle, they were either dead, drug, or asleep. The belt used to strangle Gramble, the prescription drugs and buck knife found in his vehicle. Other evidence included travel records and work records, gasoline receipts that showed him traveling all over the place to get gas. Lots of these in locations near where people were picked up, which I find funny. That's very interesting. And obviously numerous personal things he took as trophies. Because don't they like their trophies?
I was going to say they do. They absolutely do. That's a common thing.
Randy's defense was primarily set on his alibi or alternate suspects. Now, like I said, remember, we had several serial killers in the same areas going around. So he was trying to pass blame on other ones, which I find interesting.
Now, did he try to use that same defense for the guy that was in his own car?
No. I think he kind of admitted that was just, yeah.
So he's like, I did that one, but all the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I did that one. He was just the only one. And yeah, I used the same things as the other killer, but yeah, just the one. Just the one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Right.
So obviously, because he was very smart and he was hardworking, moving himself up through the ranks in the Air Force and doing what he can for the different political parties he worked for, things like that. Trying to pose him as an upstanding member of the community. Now, they didn't dispute that the 16 men were murder victims, but they argued that they were victims of someone, but not Randy. So, of course, they pointed to Patrick Kearney and William Bonin, who both were doing stuff at the same time.
Gotcha.
But obviously, they believe that there was no concrete evidence. The guy had blood all over his car. How is that not concrete evidence that he murdered someone?
Yeah.
Sorry. I laugh at some of these things because I'm just like, dude, really? Process. But anyway, the trial actually lasted 13 months.
Yeah.
And it was the most expensive trial in Orange County history. Yeah. Literally on April 29th of 1989, each side opened their closing arguments, which lasted 3 days to do closing. It's just insane. But on May 12th, 1989, Randy Kraft was found guilty of 16 counts of murder, 1 count of sodomy, and 1 count of emasculation.
Wow.
And his trial phase then started with the new trial with the jury. And so after doing They
Oh, there she is. I was paranoid.
No, we're
what?
here.
Oh, did I lose? Did I drop again?
No.
What?
It was just a pause that I thought we might have lost you.
Oh, no. So basically, they go into the penalty phase. And this is where they point out different things. So the prosecution introduced evidence of several additional homicides that were committed in Oregon and Michigan. They started talking to each other. Yay. Which they were certain that Randy had done because obviously they saw the receipts for his travel stuff, right?
Right.
So they knew he was in these areas. So they knew that he had not only committed murders in California. So the defense dismissed the prosecution's assertions of being highly speculative and introduced testimony relating to a PET scan, which had been conducted on Randy. And they said that there was abnormalities in the frontal lobes of his brain, therefore reducing his ability to control his emotions and impulse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't believe that for one more second, because he was able to function as a normal person and then have this alter ego kind of thing. But on August 11th of 1989, the jury rendered a verdict of death. But, and of course, 3 months later, he was sentenced to death, but the sentence was upheld by the Supreme Court on August 9th of 2000. But we know that in California, the death penalty had been paused and a lot of sentences were commuted.
Yeah.
And so as of 2024, Randy Kraft remains on death row in San Quentin State Prison. And he denies any responsibility for the homicides.
Yeah.
Except for that one dude
That was
in the front of
his car.
Wow. Now, I'm going to touch on this, but I don't want to dive into it, do a deep dive.
Okay.
But a lot of people do believe that he did not do this alone. Just because of all the movement and all the different areas. And, some of them are dropped off one place, some of them are dropped off another. A lot of people believe that he just didn't do it alone. So a lot of people believe that Minnesota Jeff may have assisted. Now, he was with him from 1971 to 1976. He had been questioned about it. And he verified an alibi for him. But you know what? If he was working or sleeping, Randy could have been moving in the shadows. We don't know.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he was questioned again in 1983 after Randy had been arrested. And he had informed investigators, I'm really not going to pay for it, Graves actually died of AIDS in July 27th in 1987. When he died, police actually were trying to question him further, I'm sure, to see what they could have. There's also Bob Jackson, which I was kind of like, I don't know who this dude is, But anyway, a journalist named Dennis McDougal wrote a book called Angel of Darkness, which is all about Randy, which interviews a small-time criminal named Bob Jackson, who confessed to murdering 2 hitchhikers with Randy, one in Wyoming in 1975 and another in Colorado in 1976. See, hitchhikers, there you go. See, Be Happy You're Alive tour.
I know.
Be happy.
You're not hitchhiking anymore, I hope.
I hope not.
No. And also, like, I think I saw in the chat earlier, someone was asking, like, why would anyone hitchhike? Well, as for one thing, some people don't have vehicles, and to build on that, especially when you're younger, you don't have necessarily access to a vehicle, and young men in particular, if they don't feel like they have an adequate sense of independence, will exert that in ways we would describe as reckless. But really, like, a lot of the problem is that, especially the way that neighborhoods have kind of formed and developed, a lot of times, yeah, you have to drive somewhere to get to anywhere that's interesting. And if you don't have access to a car, you're gonna find a way to do that. So
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot.
and that's my pitch for why we need more public transit.
Yes. That was way before. Oh, God, that would help.
It
But of
really
course,
would.
Tor, I love how you were able to segue into the causes you champion.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for coming to the Murder Munchies. That's why we need more trains.
Oh my God. Oh God. And of course, there's unverified scorecard victims that may go unidentified for years.
Yeah.
There's 3 of them that they know of for sure that they've tried to tie, but they don't know exactly. So there's one that's navy white. Investigators believe it's a 17-year-old named James Cox, who was stationed at Mather Air Force Base, who was last seen in 1974. His body was found in Rancho Santa Fe. He was dressed in his Navy uniform at the time of his disappearance. So they're wondering if, and oh, by the way, all of his victims were Caucasian, but also blonde or like dirty blonde hair. Yeah. Anyway, so there's that one. And then there's Iowa. So they believe it's either an 18-year-old Marine who had been born in Iowa or a 17-year-old Cedar Rapids kid named Michael Shrillicht. His body was found discarded close to the Long Beach condominium in 1974, and he died as a result of blunt force trauma. So it could be either one of those. Then there's another one named Harry Carey, which they believe is referring to a stabbing murder that happened in January of 1975 to a David Sand, who was found assaulted and stabbed to death in Long Beach when he was living there. His body was found in a kneeling position, his arms extended in front of him in a position remnants of Japanese ritual suicide practice known as harakiri.
Oh.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's Patrick Kearney and William Bonin, which are 2 of the people that they thought it could have been. But obviously, they had a different thing. Like Patrick Kearney shot people and then dismembered some of his victims and stuff. But all of his people were shot. William Bonin, who drives me crazy, he did similar things to Randy, but his victims were targeted between the ages of 12 and 19. Yeah, he's one I don't want to cover, but I probably will. Anyway, that is our show. Literally.
I want to jump on a topic, and I don't want to belabor it, but I just want to provide a little
for it.
thought. So, because in local chat, folks are so. I know feelings are very strong about like the death penalty, but I did want to at least briefly touch on why at least I think it's good that, I mean, it's hard to say why it's good that he's still alive, but why I think that it's good that we don't execute people very much is there have been several cases where we do get it wrong. Now, in this case, it absolutely looks like, everything looks like he is absolutely guilty of the things that he's been arrested and charged with. But there have been cases where it looked that way and the person was executed, and later it was found out that what looked like a absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt guilt turned out to be inaccurate. And you can't just say we will only do it when we 100% know we get it right, because sometimes systemic causes or falsified information or compelled testimony or whatever will make the illusion of getting it absolutely right. So you have to basically ask yourself, how many innocent people are we willing to allow the state to execute to get rid of the people we don't want to be alive anymore?
Right.
And like, it also doesn't really bring about any sort of justice. Like, one of the things that I think is missing in a lot of these stories is the best that the victims can hope for is that the person that, the families of the victims, I mean, the best they can hope for is that this person gets removed from society and prevented from doing more harm. But that's not really enough. It doesn't do anything to address the loss in their life. Like, there's no actual restitution. There's no effort to, like, in some of these cases, if he took away like one part of a household, or the person left behind is unable to pay the bills, they're going to lose their house, whatever. In the case of just in general emotional loss, there's nothing done for them to help them grieve, to help them move on, to help them rebuild that, what's been lost. And Randy doesn't have the means to pay out that restitution, but it's one of the things that I don't like about the way our justice system works is it focuses entirely on the guilt or innocence of the accused, and it doesn't focus enough on how to help the people that have been harmed to pick up the pieces. It doesn't pay for any therapy that they might need. It doesn't pay for any loss of wages due to, needing to just shut down for a while due to grief. It doesn't really fix. It doesn't try to heal. And so, I don't know, I'll stop my soapbox there, but it's something that I feel is really missing.
No, I'm glad for you talking about that, because that's kind of how I feel about it too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously it was it's a double-edged sword for me. Like, obviously there are people that I believe definitely deserve it, but at the same time those are people that have been proven that they are fully guilty, or they have admitted guilt. Like, they've basically said, I did it all. Here's all the information. Can tell you everything. I just want to be caught. Good example is Ed Kemper. Ed Kemper realized he was doing something wrong. He called the cops and turned himself in. He himself has said he should not be paroled because he is a menace to society and he will kill again. He has that self-awareness. And I think what he did is I honestly, all of these people, I feel that they have done terrible things to people who were innocent that didn't deserve this. And when I think some people really want the death penalty for certain cases and others they don't. I don't know. In some cases I'm impartial.
Yeah.
But at the same time, then there's some cases where it's like, it's a slam dunk. Like, there's, but I don't know. Yeah, I live in a state where we don't have it, so I don't really worry about it too much. But
I live in a state where we very much do have it, and it makes me nervous because I don't trust the state to wield that power responsibly.
I get it.
Because they have proven to not be able to do so.
And there's so many cases like that. And the Innocence Project is doing wonders, though.
Yeah, they are.
And I think that's good.
Yeah. But none of that is a defense for anything that Randy Kraft did. It's just, I just wanted to touch on that thought. The other thing, too, is, like you said, there's still a lot of unsolved murders. And if he had been executed earlier, there's a 0% chance that he ever either admits to them or helps investigators find bodies. while he is still alive, that is still on the table, technically, even if it's unlikely.
Mm,
So that's another thought.
right. No, you're exactly right. Exactly right. But anywho, just so you guys know, you can obviously come down here to the K-Bay studio. We have shirts, we have drink cups. The shirts are actually made by a good friend of mine, Aspen. She has a store called Rev in town. And then also we have candles that are our special Murder and Munchies candles that I worked on with a good friend of mine, Arella. And you can grab those if you wish. If you have any questions or whatever, feel free to let me know. If you have a case that you want me to cover for you, I will certainly do so. And of course, in the link in the live, there is a link there for our Discord where you can join and listen to special content and also get access to the Murder and Munchies database to listen to old episodes.
And you would think we were coordinated because I literally just dropped that in the chat as you were saying it. Because I've learned from you that that's the best way to stay informed with Murder Munchies, right? Is the Discord server?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, I've been a little lax with it lately, and that's just because I've been very touch and go with doing episodes right now.
Mm.
So, but really, that's where we're gonna put all of our live information and special recordings.
Mm-hmm.
I do special little things for my group members. So you might see a random recording about a case that popped up on my true crime calendar, because yes, I have a true crime calendar. And or it might be a page that I decide to color in my serial killer coloring book.
Wow. Wow. I would love to see that, Scarlett.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So, we had someone in the stream chat saying how they were glad that they showed up because they loved true crime. So
Awesome.
I'm wondering if we might come back sometime because I really enjoyed this.
Totes.
Oh yeah,
Totally. Totally. We can totally
We'll
do
have
this
to
again. I would
collaborate
love
again.
to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I like it. So, but yeah, I will, Ricky. I'll send Consuela got
I
ya,
just dropped it
please.
because it was in my copy paste history. So there you go.
But I want to thank you both for being on this with me. It's been great fun. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It's way more fun than talking to myself.
Oh,
We loved this.
I
Yeah.
absolutely get it. That's why for the longest time I hadn't started my own YouTube channel because I didn't want to talk to myself. So here comes Tour, and it's like, great. Now I can start a YouTube channel. So yeah.
And at the time, I was already doing streaming stuff anyway, so I was able to help you out some.
Yeah.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's definitely plan for that again.
I would love
super
it.
excited about it.
Yeah.
And of course, yeah. So I
right.
hope you guys really enjoyed the show. Means a lot to me for your support. And yeah. So
Okay.
thank you again.
Well, we were happy to be here. I'm going to do some of my own thank yous like I usually do at the end. So I just wanted, and actually usually a Tour goes before me. Tour, do you have anything you want to say? Or no, you go after me. So
I usually go after you.
Yeah. So thank you to everybody who joined our live stream today. Whether you're already a part of our community or you're new here because of Murder and Munchies, welcome. I know I'm excited to be a part of the Murder and Munchie community because I love true crime. And that's something Scarlett and I talked about early on. I was like, Crime Junkie podcast was like the one I was listening to for a while. So thank you all for spending time with us today. If it was the whole stream, part of the stream, we just appreciate everyone being here with us.
And yeah, we will definitely look forward to seeing you in the next one, and hopefully we're able to bounce into another Murder and Munchies episode in the future.
Oh, we're so going to. All right. Thank
For
you.
sure. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. And remember, please stay safe. Please, please, please. And of course, munch, don't murder.
For sure.
Good advice. Good advice.